What is the title of the experiment? Just listen to her. Did you hear? Good. Now the topic of today's practical experiment is going to be on dissection of bird. And then the bird we're going to be using is chicken. Now the botanical name for chicken is what I wrote here, is Gallus domestica. Now listen, anytime you carry out biology practical using a particular specimen, whether plant or animal, it is expected or required of you to provide the botanical name of the specimen you are using. Now this specimen is a chicken. Now for those of you who are wondering why I have to use capital letter here and then use small letter here. Now in classification of living thing, remember biology deals with living thing, isn't it? Now living thing exists in two forms. The first is in plant and then the second is in animal. Because plant and animal has organ, they are considered living thing or living organism. Now there's a system in which they classify living thing. There is a system in which they classify living things. And look at the order of classification of living things. Now the first is called the kingdom classification. That's the first. Now the second is called the phylum. The third is called the class. The fourth, order. The fifth is called family. The sixth is called genus. And then the seventh is called the species. Now, in classifying living things, there are 7 systems in which we classify both plant and animal. The first is the kingdom classification. The second is the phylum classification. The third is the class, of which the other doesn't fall under. The fourth is the order of the classification. The fifth is the family which that specimen fall under. The sixth is the genus, and then the seventh is the species. Now the genus is also called the generic, while the species is also called the specific. Now the botanical name of a specimen is made up of both the generic and the specific name. Hope you understand this. Now in writing the generic name, the first, this is the generic name, the first letter is written with a capital letter. That is a rule. For example now, we mammals, we are called Homo sapiens. The botanical name of mammal, which is human being, is Homo sapiens. When I want to write Homo sapiens, I begin with a capital letter, H, Homo. Then for the S, I start with a small letter. Now this is underlined. It's a rule, you have to underline it. We call this the generic name, and this is the specific name. Do you understand? So in system of classification. Now for chicken now, the generic name I have here is Gallus, and then the specific name you see is domestica. Do you understand? Yeah. Domestica comes from the word domestic. It's a domestic animal. Do you understand? Good. It's not a wild animal, it's a domestic animal. Now I'm going to start by teaching you external anatomy of the chicken before we proceed to dissecting the chicken. By the time I dissect the chicken, what I'm going to be exposing to you is the internal anatomy of the chicken. And the internal anatomy of the chicken comprises of both the respiratory, the circulatory, and the alimentary canal of the chicken. The alimentary canal of the chicken shows or comprises of the digestive tract of the chicken. Do you understand? Now the respiratory canal I'll show you is the trachea. The trachea is an organ in the chicken that the chicken uses in breathing or respiration. Beside the trachea is an organ called the oesophagus. It is the oesophagus that the plant uses as a tube. When the food that the plant eats passes through, it's like a tube now, and then it will come down to the crop. And that's where food is stored. If you check just below the oesophagus, you're going to see a small ball-like structure. It's called a crop. Do you understand? So that is where food is stored. So that exposes both the respiratory and then the digestive tract of the chicken. Do you understand? Then down I'm going to show you the circulatory system, which comprises of both the small and large intestine, and then you are going to see the alimentary canal. At the end of this practical, after dissecting the practical, I'm going to expose all these things to you. But before that, I'm going to give you a knowledge of the external features or the external anatomy of the chicken before we dissect it. Hope you understand what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Number one, you're right. external anatomy of the chicken. Please, can you help me with this? So now this is the chicken. I'm going to use the diagram of the chicken to label the chicken completely for you so that you see. So write it down. External anatomy of the chicken. Step 1. External. Anatomy of the bird. I'm going to begin with the upper part of the bed before I go down to the middle and down of the bed. Now look at the upper part of the bed. You see this? You watch this? You see this structure? Can you see this structure?
Yes.
It's called the beak. It's like this. Now, the name of this structure is called the beak. Now the function of this beak in the chicken, we don't call it mouth. Let me call it mouth. Do you understand? Is the beak. It's the same thing with the mouth in other organisms, but the name of this is called what? Tell of you say beak.
Beak.
Say beak.
Beak.
Good. Now the function. Beak. Sorry. Beak. All of you say beak.
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 Now it is divided into two, and then we'll have the diagram of the tongue here. This is where the tongue is. Can you see this? Good. Now the function of the beak is for digestion. Now when you see this chicken, if you look at the beak of the chicken, can you see this? It doesn't have teeth. Now, any organism that has teeth, the method of digestion is called mechanical digestion. Mechanical digestion is the physical breaking down of food substance into smaller particles by chewing them. It's mechanical. So because I have teeth, by the time I put any food substance into my mouth, I'm going to chew it, and that process is the mechanical process. Now this chicken here does not have the teeth, so it does not undergo mechanical process of digestion. Hope you understand that.
Yes.
Good. Right. Now, the tongue of this chicken, watch. The tongue of this chicken produces what we call saliva. Are you hearing? Now, the saliva that this chicken produces has an enzyme that is called amylase. The name of this enzyme is, all of you say amylase.
Amylase.
Amylase. Now, the amylase is an enzyme. It's a digestive enzyme that is produced in the saliva of the chicken that the chicken uses to digest food. Do you understand? So it's a digestive enzyme, and that is what the chicken uses in breaking down food from larger particles to smaller particles. So digestion of food is made possible due to the presence of this enzyme that is present in the saliva of the chicken, and the name of this enzyme is called what? Amylase. All of you say amylase.
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 And that summarizes the function of the beak. Now, all of you look at this structure up. If you see a comb, I believe it has this shape. A comb. So this is called a comb. Do you understand?
Yes.
Look at this. If you look at the comb, how you comb your hair, isn't it? They are similar in shape now. It's called the comb. Now this is called the whatlas. Look at this. So this structure up here, it's called the comb. And this one here, the diagram like this. This is the whatlas. Function. Have you ever seen a chicken sweat before?
No.
chicken do not sweat, isn't it? But because it's a living organism, one of the major characteristics of living organism is the response to stimulus, isn't it? That stimulus is called irritability. Whenever there is an external change, the body system will react to it. Now, if the temperature of the environment is too hot, this chicken will not sweat. Are you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Good. When the temperature of the environment is too hot, this chicken will not sweat. The comb and the waters, they help in regulating the temperature of the chicken. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, they help in regulating the temperature of the chicken. It's like they help the chicken to get rid of excess heat that is accumulating in the chicken. I hope you understand this. Good. Now, without these two organs here, the chicken cannot get rid of excess heat. The body temperature of the chicken will be too high. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Good. So this and these, they are structures that help the chicken to get rid of excess body temperature. So they help the chicken to regulate the body temperature. Do you understand this?
Yes.
Good. Another thing, they show signs of sexual maturity. If a chicken is not mature, you are not going to, this particular structure will be underdeveloped. If you take a small chicken, you will notice that the size of this comb is different and the size of this cutlass is different. Do you understand? So now, when you see a developed comb and a developed cutlass, it shows that the chicken is mature. So it's a sign of the maturity of the sexuality of the chicken. Do you understand? It shows sexual maturity. I hope I'm communicating. So now let me write it down. Function. Let's reduce the fan. This thing is drying up so quick. Remember the leather marker here? This one is down.